$5 trillion. That's how much Nvidia is worth right now, and Michael Burry just issued his biggest warning since 2008. In a Substack post on May 22nd, Burry said the conditions for what he called an aggressive fall in Nvidia, quote, are as strong as they have been in the history of the stock. Stick with us because the next collapse he's pointing to could be even more dramatic than the 56%, 67%, and 43% Nvidia crashes we've already seen since 2018. And most people watching this don't realize how directly that translates into 12 specific U.S. housing markets we're going to name in this video. One of these markets has already dropped 9.6% in the last year. Another one is up 11.7%. And I'll show you why the second number is actually the more terrifying one. We're also going to walk you through exactly what happens to a $1.2 million home in one of these markets if Burry is right. And we're going to show you a 2008 comparison that nobody in the housing media is talking about right now. Let's start with what Burry actually said, because the financial media has been butchering this. The Substack is called Cassandra Unchained. His paid Substack, around $379 a year, per CNBC's November 2025 reporting. The post that triggered this entire news cycle dropped on May 22nd, and a second one followed 3 days later on May 25th. In those posts, Burry pointed at Nvidia's customer concentration and said the top 3 customers now account for 64% of accounts receivable, up from 56% the prior quarter, and that for the first time in 13 quarters, the number 1 customer accounts for more receivables but less revenue. His words, this is not quite a smoking gun, but more of a finding of a finger on the trigger. I pulled Nvidia's actual 10Q from Sec Edgar, the quarter ending April 26, 2026, and the filing shows 3 direct customers at 25%, 18%, and 13% of accounts receivable. 2 customers alone account for 18 and 16% of total revenue. Nvidia doesn't name them, but most analysts believe one is Microsoft. And here's Burry's actual position. Scion Asset Management is holding puts on 1 million Nvidia shares at a $110 strike expiring in 2027. Nvidia and Palantir put together represent up to roughly 80% of Scion's disclosed portfolio per its 13F. He's not just talking, he's short. One thing to be upfront about, though, Burry has been early before. In 2021, he called the mother of all crashes, and the market kept rising. In early 2023, he posted sell and deleted his account. So this isn't a guarantee Nvidia falls tomorrow, but the analysis is worth taking seriously. Here's what makes this different from a normal stock warning. The entire U.S. economy is now leaning on this one bet. Per the Financial Times, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta have committed $725 billion in capital expenditure for 2026 alone, up 77% from last year's $410 billion. Microsoft alone budgeted $190 billion for calendar 2026, $55 billion above analyst consensus. Moody's Ratings is projecting 2027 capex at near $1 trillion. 4 companies committing close to $750 billion in 1 year, primarily to buy chips from Nvidia, and another trillion teed up for 2027. That's why Nvidia's revenue last quarter was $81.6 billion, up 85% year over year. Now layer the broader market on top. The Shiller-Cape ratio, the cyclically adjusted price-to-earnings ratio Robert Shiller originally published at Yale, is sitting at approximately 41. The all-time high was 44.2 in December 1999, right before the dot-com crash. The current reading is within 1 point of the most expensive the U.S. stock market has ever been. And the Bureau of Economic Analysis personal savings rate in April 2026 was 2.6%. The long-term norm is north of 5%. In the 70s and 80s, it was closer to 10%. American households are saving less at any point outside the 2005 housing bubble and the 2022 inflation spike. The fundamentals are stretched in every direction at once. If you made it this far and you want analysis anchored in primary source data instead of vibes, hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. New videos on this stuff drop every week, and the bell is the only thing that gets you in front of them before they're 48 hours old. So why does any of this matter for housing? Because of a mechanism economists have studied for 25 years called the wealth effect. The foundational research is Case, Quigley, and Shiller, the same Schiller, in a 2001 NBER paper titled Comparing Wealth Effects, the Stock Market versus the Housing Market. They're finding, when household stock portfolios rise, consumer spending rises, but the effect per dollar is smaller than for housing wealth. Standard estimates today roughly 3 to 5 cents of additional spending per dollar of stock wealth gain, and 5 to 9 cents per dollar of housing wealth gain. Here's the part that matters for our thesis. Stock wealth is concentrated. Per the IMF's April 2026 Global Financial Stability Report, quote, a major portion of rising household exposure is to benchmark indices, in particular the S&P 500, largely in 401k retirement accounts. This exposure makes household balance sheets vulnerable to sharp corrections, and the Federal Reserve's own Financial Stability Report from May 8, 2026 found that 50% of surveyed market participants now cite AI as a possible shock to the system, up from 30% in fall 2025. The Fed itself is flagging this. When the stock market sells off, the affluent households that own the second homes in Aspen and Naples and Jackson Hole feel it first and feel it hardest. They don't become forced sellers. They become voluntary sellers. They list. That's where the 2008 data tells you everything you need to know about what comes next. Pull up the Case-Shiller National Home Price Index, peak July 2006, trough February 2012, national decline 27.4%. That's the benchmark, what the average American home did in the worst housing crash since the Great Depression. Now pull up the FHFA Repeat Sales Index for the second home markets. Naples, Marco Island, Florida, Collier County, peak Q3 2006, trough Q3 2011, decline 53.9%, almost exactly the double national crash. But wait, it gets worse. Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Florida, Lee County, right next door. Peak Q2 2006. Trough Q1 2011. Decline 56.5%. The deepest large metro drop in the FHFA series. And again, it gets worse. South Lake Tahoe median home price went from roughly $489,000 in 2006 to $234,000 in August 2012, per the Tahoe Daily Tribune. Cut in half. Aspen on the FHFA annual data fell at least 34%, and that's a conservative read because annual data smooths the swing. Now here's the controversial take, and we want you to think about it before you comment. The financial media is going to talk about an AI bubble crashing the broad U.S. housing market. They're wrong. The broad market is largely insulated by mortgage rate lock-ins and a structural housing shortage. National home price appreciation right now is plus 0.8%, essentially flat per AEI Housing Center's May 2026 indicators. What an AI sell-off does is destroy the discretionary top. The luxury second home market's riding 30% annual appreciation on AI tech wealth. Aspen up 31% in 2025 to a single-family median of $17.5 million. Jackson Hole up 30.3% to an average sold price of $4.4 million. San Francisco up 11.7% year over year as of Redfin's May 2026 reading. Those are the markets that fall when the wealth engine reverses. The fuse, not the fire. If you think we're wrong about Aspen and Jackson Hole being more exposed than Phoenix and Tampa right now, fight us in the comments. We do read them. We'd rather have the argument with you than agree with everyone telling viewers the broad market is about to crash 30%. Hit like if you've been waiting for someone to run this analysis with real numbers instead of generic predictions. Here are the 12 markets. We're splitting them into two groups. Group 1 is the markets already cracking, but for affordability and oversupply reasons, not for wealth effect reasons yet. Cape Coral, Fort Myers, Florida, down 9.6% year over year per AEI Housing Center's February 2026 data, with Realtor.com projecting it to be the only U.S. metro with a double-digit price drop in 2026 at minus 10.2%. Northport, Sarasota, Florida, down 4.6% year over year per Redfin in March 2026, with 48% of listings cutting price, the highest share in the country. Tampa, Florida, with 44 to 46% of sellers cutting price. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, where Redfin reports pending sales falling faster than any other major metro, and Miami carrying nearly a year of inventory. Austin, Texas, down 3.8% year over year per Redfin's May 2026 home price index. the largest decline in any major U.S. metro. Phoenix, Scottsdale, Arizona, where 50.8% of wealth with the worst 2008 track record. San Francisco, San Jose, California, up 11.7% year over year, the biggest gain in the country, driven by AI signing bonuses Redfin agents described as $500,000 to new 22-year-old hires. Aspen and Pitkin County, Colorado, single-family median $17.5 million. Jackson Hole and Teton County, Wyoming, average sold price $4.4 million. Park City and Summit County, Utah, rolling 12-month median up 20% to $1.775 million. Vail and Eagle County, Colorado, average sold price $2.54 million. Naples and Collier County, Florida, mixed signals, but the $5 million plus tier carrying nearly 14 months of supply. Those 12 markets are not in the same condition, but they are connected by the same wire. Now let me run the math on what this means for one household. Take a homeowner in San Jose, home worth $1.2 million, stock portfolio worth $800,000, concentrated in big tech and AI names because they work in the industry. Mortgage balance of $400,000 at roughly 6.5%. Freddie Mac PMMS is 6.49% as of June 2025. Freddie Mac PMMS is 6.49% as of June 25. Net worth before any shock. Home equity of $800,000 plus stock of $800,000, total $1.6 million. Suppose the AI trade reverses. Stock's down 25%. That portfolio drops from $800,000 to $600,000. Net worth drops to $1.4 million. Apply 15% to the home, well inside what 2008 did to second home markets. And the home goes to $1.02 million. Home equity drops to $620,000. Total net worth, $1.22 million. That household just lost $380,000, roughly 24% of their net worth in a few quarters. They're now underwater. They're not a forced seller. But the second home they own in Tahoe, that gets listed. The renovation gets paused. Applying the Case-Quigley-Schiller stock wealth marginal propensity to consume of about 4 cents on the dollar to that $200,000 stock loss means roughly $8,000 a year of consumption pulled out of the economy from one household. Multiply that across the affluent quintile that owns most of the stock and most of the second homes, and you see why these 12 markets move first. If you own in one of these fuse markets, watch your local active inventory and your local price cut percentage every month. If you're a buyer eyeing one of these markets, the cracking metros have inventory up 40 to 50%. You have leverage there now. If you're a seller in a fuse market, you're at peak pricing power today, and the window may not stay open. That window doesn't slam shut overnight. The Case-Shiller national peak was July 2006. The trough was February 2012. Almost 6 years of decline. The owners who listed in the first year walked away whole. The ones who waited didn't. The receipts are in the data. Wall Street is late. The luxury markets riding the AI boom are the fuse, not the fire. And the fire starts the moment that wealth engine reverses. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so the next video lands in your feed the moment it drops. And watch this one next. We'll see you next time. Need a real voice, not AI? I deliver professional voiceover services with decades of experience in commercials, narration, e-learning, and more. Reach out through the channel and let's bring your project to life.